thank you for this warm introduction and for the invitation. So let's begin. It's summer break, sometime in the early 2000s. The sun hangs heavily in the sky. Perhaps it's the so-called Jahrhundertsommer, perhaps not. I'm in my parents' garden, surrounded by flowers, bushes, and plants, enclosing a small lawn and a patio. The plastic garden furniture is warm to the touch and gives off a peculiar, not unpleasant smell. I remember the early 2000s, fabric blending with lingering traces of the 90s. Insects buzz through the air. A breeze drifts by. My mom has gotten me a girly magazine with a pair of pink flip-flops as a gimmick. I probably flipped through a comic book and was midway through composing a list of things I wanted to do that summer. Nostalgically, I remember it as a very happy time. When I watched the Barbie movie, many times by now, a particular scene stood out to me. Toward the end, when Barbie stands on the threshold of leaving Barbieland for good, her creator, Ruth Handler, appears to show the doll what it means to be human, or at least what it means to feel and experience the full range of emotions. The footage shown includes that of the cast and production members sharing intimate moments and memories from their lives. Much like my own memory of a summer break during my prime girlhood, this footage carried a nostalgic feel. In my case, I know my memory reflects an idealized version of what summer felt like back then. The nostalgic quality stems not only from our tendency to romanticize or idolize the past, but also from the traces left behind by the media we use to capture those moments with and what we associate with them. There is always a certain texture, a kind of varnish that ties media to a specific historical moment and us to a memory that we have tied to a potential future. Back in that summer girlhood memory loop, I did not only create to-do lists, I also began to use my computer, a girls' canon event. I looked up my favorite TV series and fan pages, burned music from YouTube clips to listen to on an MP3 player, watched movies, and wrote short stories. Soon, I had accounts on several social media platforms: Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Polyvore, Pinterest, Reddit, you name it. With their rise in recent years, the girl online embraces nostalgia, cute aesthetics, and hyper-femininity. In doing so, they also frequently refer back to an earlier phase of the internet, one that was already distinctly algorithmic and commodified, yet still seemed to offer users more agency even within platforms. The revival of this particular era, alongside references to other periods, such as the 1990s or the early 2000s, often seen as the formative years of digital pop culture, reveals deeper cultural desires and reflects how the past is received, reimagined, and reappropriated in the present by remembering as well as creating our present. Both the concept of nostalgia and desire play a crucial role for becoming girl. Today, we are confronted with multiple crises. The short circuit that everything used to be better surfaces more quickly than one might expect and at ever shorter intervals. The feeling of belatedness, of living after the gold rush, is as omnipresent as it is disavowed. Compare the fallow terrain of the current moment with the fecundity of previous periods, and you will quickly be accused of nostalgia, as Mark Fisher already diagnosed in the early 2010s. Our inability to imagine a future other than the one that we are experiencing today. The girl online exists in the midst of this. They are a subject of today's late capitalism. They should not be viewed as a fixed or self-contained entity. Rather, they represent a tool, a mode of being and acting that at its best enables us to navigate the contemporary digital and algorithmic landscape. The girl online is by no means an ideal, detached or free of contradictions to strive for, nor are they a binary counterpart. Rather, they embody contradictions within themselves. They may be understood as a figure of thought, bleeding into diverse spheres of our lives. It is precisely in their simultaneous determinacy and indeterminacy that they become vulnerable to critique. However, our concern lies only in the ways this ambiguity generates a productive tension within the present, beyond relativism, binaries, hierarchies, second-wave feminism, or preconceived notions of girlhood. Sometimes, the reception of the girl online can get stuck in these narratives, giving space to discourses that they have long since outgrown. At other times, there may be an overemphasis on the girl's aesthetics alone, rendering them toothless when they are well equipped to bite. As we explore the girl online's anchoring in nostalgia, desire, and late capitalism's enmeshment in algorithmicity, how did we arrive here, and where might this take us? How can the girl online be perceived as a practice, a tool within complex algorithmic entanglements? And in what ways might they enable forms of agency, a possibility to overcome ourselves by opening up pathways toward posthuman subjectivities? So let us begin to unravel the threads. Nostalgia and girlhood go hand in hand, just as nostalgia and late capitalism are deeply intertwined. The former is often marked by a longing, as I outlined above, for childlike wonder, aesthetic play, carelessness, weirdness, those first encounters of being a girl online, and pop culture moments now relegated to long-forgotten testimonies. Nostalgia can become a counterpoint to exhaustion caused by late capitalism's way to drain on people. As Fisher observed, the link between nostalgia and late capitalism is rooted in a sense of belatedness, a symptom of political defeat, the collapse of alternative futures, and not to be able to even imagine a future different from the present. In this framework, culture no longer produces the new, but endlessly recycles and reconfigures the past, trapped in a loop. At its best, girl culture engages critically with its own nostalgic past, confronting the ghosts of lost futures and the unrealized potentials that still haunt us, what Fisher terms hauntology. At its worst, this impulse stalls in nostalgia, commodifying the past, freezing it into static reminiscence, and foreclosing the possibility of future alternatives. The precarious conditions for imagining a future have also been diagnosed by numerous other theorists. Zsuzsanna Zuboff, in The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, insists on the right to a future in the face of human actions becoming increasingly predetermined through the comprehensive exploitation of surplus data within surveillance capitalism. In Hyperpolitics, Anton Jäger describes the growing divergence between the increasing politicization of the population and the simultaneous decline of institutionalization. The resulting ineffectiveness of political engagement outside institutional frameworks, other than conservative alliances, leads not only to the sense of futility, but also to the absence of a viable future. The tension between nostalgia and hauntology remains potent today. It surfaces in the wave of film remakes, the vintagization of the 2010s, the return of discontinued products, or the romanticized escapism into a pre-digital nature or cottagecore, even in the resurgence of dinosaurs as pop icons. Faced with multiple overlapping crises that seem to render the future impossible, the girl online becomes both a product of these conditions and a practice through which we navigate and negotiate the present. Algorithms, and more so algorithmicity, the machine logic that pre-structures cultural processes by translating vast data flows into forms we can perceive, play a significant role in bringing back those memories, as well as enabling us to engage with each other online. Algorithmicity operates by anchoring itself in the past. Put simply, even as it forecasts, it does so through data that is already gone. When we consider nostalgia alongside algorithmicity, digital devices, and us being online, an inherent drift toward nostalgic affect becomes apparent. And how could it not, when our seeing and consuming are structured by past data, and the present and future are recursively captured by the temporal regime of the already been, a strange butterfly effect of cultural repetition. Algorithms curate our social media feeds, ranking, sorting, displaying, and concealing, feeding on our digital traces to determine where we are supposed to go next. The content we possibly could encounter is channeled through search engines and handed over to us pre-chewed. More often than not, these intermediaries are fueled by capitalism's desire to become our desire, especially in the context of social media. The curatorial logic of algorithmicity delivers sponsored content, advertising, a diminished attention span, and manipulation as immediate responses to our actions, interactions that are themselves already shaped by prior determinations. Moreover, the digitization encompasses also the content we might create or come around by, as social media sets a default of design and publication choices by which all content is aligned in the capitalistic stream of conformity. That said, algorithmic structures as technologies are not inherently biased or evil. They become tools of misuse only through their deployment within a distinctly late capitalist framework. No clear-cut black and white distinction can be made here, since we are both affected by and entangled in the structures of late capitalism. Or as Mark Fisher pointed out, to reclaim a real political agency means, first of all, accepting our insertion at the level of desire in the remorseless meat grinder of capital. What is being disavowed in the abjection of evil and ignorance onto phantasmatic others is our own complicity in planetary networks of oppression. What needs to be kept in mind is both that capitalism is a hyper-abstract, impersonal structure and that it would be nothing without our cooperation. This entails neither collapsing into relativism, nor lingering in a guilt and shame-driven self-centeredness, or succumbing to a misguided individualism centered on consumer choice. Instead, it might be time to delve more deeply into the structures of our desires, and therefore the desires of the girl online. Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari conceive of desire as a productive flow rather than a lack or absence, as classic psychoanalytical theory suggests, but something that connects flows and builds new realities. Desire is a machine that produces connections and relations between people, objects, bodies, energies. The desire machines couple into the desires in each other. In the context of capitalism, desire becomes crucial, as capitalism is especially effective when it comes to mobilizing desires. For Guattari and Deleuze, capitalism works by deterritorialization of old structures, such as traditions or social codes, and liberating flows like money, labor, commodities, desires. At the same time, capitalism reterritorializes those flows, capturing desire and channeling it into consumerism, profit, and social control. Thus, de- and reterritorialization are one constant flux and are a transformative process. Algorithmicity performs DNG's double movement of deterritorialization and reterritorialization at digital speed. Capitalism is always on the edge of self-destruction, but also self-stabilizing. That's its power. Desire is a productive connecting force, but under capitalism, it is captured and redirected into systems of control and profit, making liberation possible only by breaking those circuits and creating new flows. The girl's desire for the past, a nostalgia that always encapsulates the sad potentiality of a past future, has been picked up by the reemergence of different pop cultural markers. Those products, souvenirs from the past, which now also stand for commodified past, are both part of the girl's aesthetic code, as they are a charged symbol. If it's not only about consuming or reenacting this commodified memory on a surface level, but to creatively, critically, and playfully engage with it, a lot is won. As a girl is a practice, this feeling of nostalgia is also about remembering what could have been and trying to set these memories into perspective, to extract what is missing now, what got lost on the way, and what is needed today, to recognize the ghostly encounters. After all, a girl is plural. There is a small line between nostalgic, repetitive desire hijacked by capitalism and a hauntological agency that is fueled by the confrontation of stagnation turned into creativity. Considering the developments that recently gave us tech oligarchy and before introduced us to surveillance, psychological manipulation, trust issues, commodification of communication, intrusion, no privacy, and many other different notions of social media, what is there to be done for a nostalgic, desiring girl online, entangled in algorithmicity? It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of social media. At my parents' home, in my former room, a space that now holds layers of different times, there is a shelf with 2 laptops I last used in the early 2010s. I have never attempted to start them again. Whatever is stored on them remains unknown, caught between presence and disappearance, likely lost to the fragility of aging hardware. In the mid-2010s, my laptop crashed. Some data was recovered, but much of it vanished, quietly and without record. I no longer know what has been erased and what survived. At the end of the 2010s, my iMac failed during an iOS update. Catalina rendered the hardware unusable, and once again, data slipped away. I remember noticing the sudden absence in my photo archive, a gap where images should have been. In 2024, with a new laptop, the pattern repeats. More data is lost, this time to incompatibility between systems. My photo library is fragmented, not entirely gone, but no longer whole. It exists somewhere in between, not accessible, not fully absent, suspended in a kind of digital limbo. I couldn't help but wonder, is the future of social media still unimaginable in its form to become an object of its own nostalgia? A lost future marked by the same gaps I recall in my photo archive? Not entirely gone, but suspended in absence, something you mourn for a while, but eventually simply forget by habit. Much like the girl online, who looks back at their girlhood becoming the bigger girl, yet still shadowed by the remnants of what once was. Thus, should they accept the loss and just press delete? Should they accelerate the messiness of nostalgia and data, neglect the platforms, delete and re-download the apps, decenter them, be nostalgic but in a haunting way, just play with it, hijack back, and ignore our desires? The only way out is through game over, restart.
Okay, I'm restarting the game. I'm logging on. There's girls everywhere and a lot of memes of Deleuze. So let's begin this by asking, how can girlhood exist under algorithmic conditions without getting captured, categorized, or territorialized? In the logic of the feat, the girl online is always at risk of becoming the product. Their image is optimized, it's aestheticized, and above all, it's readable. But what if we could play the game differently? How can we rethink the girl online as a productive force? What if we understood the girl not confined into the stable categories of identity, of gender, of ethnicity, of the body, or of sexual orientation, but as a glitch in the algorithm? And not gonna lie, the starting point to girlhood is kinda ungrateful. The collective tikkun presents in the theory of the young girl as a model of subjectivity shaped by late capitalist aesthetics, where identity is performed through visibility, through effective labor, and through consumerism. While the concept of the young girl kind of identifies and criticizes how femininity is instrumentalized as a tool of biopolitical control, it also flattens the figure of the girl into depolitization, fueled by rampant misogyny. They write, every young girl is an automatic standard converter of existence into market value. But Tikkun underestimated the girl online. They ignored how the girl online reclaims and reprograms these aesthetics as tactics of subversion. And they have neglected the processual nature of the girl online. As Charlotte pointed out, the problem of girlhood in digital cultures is that it is always already mediated through platforms and the algorithmic gaze. On the one hand, being a girl online opens the access to visibility, to community, and to exchange with other users. But on the other hand, it is a position of extreme vulnerability to categorization, because to be aestheticized is to be recognized, and to be recognized is to be fixed. How then can one become a girl online without becoming a product? In her masterpiece, Zeros and Ones, Sadie Plant reminds us that historically networks have always been connected to femininity. They've reconfigured rigid and often very masculine fantasies of power and control into fluid, decentralized systems full of feedback loops. Sadie writes, hardware, software, wetware, before their beginnings and beyond their ends, women have been the simulators, assemblers, and programmers of the digital machines. This resonates with the girl online's ability to manipulate and repurpose algorithmic environments on their own terms. And while they're shaping their own presence, the system is also shaping them. They are both the author and the product, producing meaning while being processed by the machine. To understand this, we need to enter the chat with Deleuze and Guattari, and specifically the concept of the body without organs. This is an approximation that I generated, so please don't take this as a viable visualization of the body without organs. But the body without organs is a body without image. It is without system, without capture, a surface of intensities, and a site of becoming. It is pure potential, the virtually unimaginable state of being before identity kicks in. They write, the body without organs is not opposed to the organs, but to that organization of the organs called the organism. In this frame, the girl online is not a subject, but a flow. They are not coherent, but modular. A distributed assemblage of profile pictures, emojis, makeup styles, aesthetic palettes, facial filters, thirst traps, behavioral patterns, and voice modulations. They are a diagram of desire across platforms. To say that the girl online is a body without organs doesn't mean they have no form at all. But their form is not stable or obedient. It is a glitch inside the system that tries to define people by their faces. Yet no body without organs is immune to machinic capture. Desiring machines, whether they be subjects, algorithms, ideologies, economies, latch onto it, territorialize the flows, code its intensities. The girl online becomes clickable, monetizable, mimetic. Their smooth surface is scraped by data architectures. Enter faciality. Faciality is the grid that encodes subjectivity onto a surface. Think of the face as a surface that becomes rasterized through the faciality machine. The face is not a personal expression. It is a semiotic trap. It is a political machine. Or, as D&G write, the face is a politics. In digital ecologies, faciality is accelerated. The face becomes a filter, a thumbnail, a verification badge. It is the pixelated zone of recognizability. It is how the subject is made visible and also governable. According to Deleuze and Guattari, faciality operates via the white wall and black hole system. The white wall is a canvas. It is a supposedly blank space onto which faces are projected. Think of the user profile template, of the Instagram grids, or of the small rectangles on Zoom. These frames present themselves as neutral digital architecture, but in reality, they act as surfaces of normativity, of being white, legible, and symmetrical. They ask, how do you fit into this frame? How do you fill it? The white walls shape how we present ourselves, compressing our subjectivity into machine-legible formats that can be circulated, categorized, and ultimately monetized. The black holes, on the other hand, are the eyes, the gaze, the focal points where meaning is and condenses and subjectivity is extracted. They are not just features of the face, but mechanisms of capture. Through them, the platform sees and processes the user. Their emotions are tracked, identity is calculated, and the presence is monitored. The black holes are where surveillance systems focus their recognition. They draw the subject in and mark them as knowable, legible, classifiable. This is where you become a data point. The black hole doesn't just look, it absorbs. It installs self-awareness and self-surveillance in you. You start modulating your gaze, your smile, and your expression because you know you're being seen. This is how the face becomes the site of self-regulation and compliance. The girl online is a face-first subject. And yet, the girl online's face is never fully theirs. It is always after them. It arrives filtered, memed, remixed. Drawing on Isabel Miller, Alex Keato argues that we are moving into the era of the post-face, mediated by the girl online, who becomes the interface between an advanced intelligence and users. Therefore, we must understand the girl online as a pattern, and as Keato suggests, the girl online is a behavioral code. So she writes, the development of the girl into highly efficient swarms of entities that follow discretized behavioral codes, which maximize on the excess released by seemingly anti-survival sets of behavior, like cuteness and surrender, has cemented her apex position on the domain of hypernature. The girl online's face is machinic. It glitches representation, becoming an interface rather than an expression. Their face is too aestheticized to signify and too artificial to decode. Sparkles, anime blush, poreless skin, not human, but hyper-readable. Not signify of the self, but of circulation. Take the mesmerizing effects of cuteness as an example. In Cute Accelerationism, Maya B. Kronig and Amy Ireland theorized the impossibility of engaging with cute aesthetics without ultimately becoming cute yourself. They write, packaged up, entering into circulation, metabolized, slipping down the non-orientable surface of cute, before long, the swallower turns out to be a swallowee. They're too cute to be real, because they actually aren't real. Acting cute makes you cute. But what if cuteness could also act as a form of deception? A mask covering something else, something that is unsweet. The girl online can use cuteness to slip under the radar. They're rerouting their re-territorialization. They conceal their intentions of destabilization of the system while smiling bright. Legacy Russell finds in this space the opportunity to glitch. To become an era is to surrender to becoming unknown, unrecognizable, and unnamed. Glitch is the era that opens possibility. The girl online is not a malfunction, but a deviation, a strategic collapse of signal into noise. To glitch faciality is to scramble the regime of recognition, to become unreadable within the very codes that demand transparency. These glitch faces proliferate. Rage girl, e-girl, tradwife, bimbo, baddies, theory girl, cat boys and cat girls, girl soldiers, astro girls. Rage girl weaponizes her anger as feminist disruption. The tradwife resurrects domestic femininity with algorithmic precision, aligning with conservative nostalgia under pastel filters. The bimbo plays dumb as a critique, performing hyperfemininity to short-circuit gendered expectations. Theory girl aestheticizes intelligence, turning academic labor into a visual signifier, books as accessories, citations as captions. These faces quote a machine back to itself. They feed the grid what it wants, in the most concentrated dose. They territorialize the platform in order to leak out of it. Each new phase is a distortion, opening up a line of flights and a site of potentiality, until they get immediately captured again by the algorithm. Each aesthetic spawns off products: Rage Girl movies, pink keyboards, healthy supplements, 21-step skincare routines, Dyson Airwraps, dark academia, kawaii merchandise, cutified weapons, TikTok tarot readings. All of them neatly categorized and readily available, one-day delivery included. Tikkun's daydream of the young girl affirmed, unless... How can we learn to cheat this game of faciality? How do we jam the face machine? How do we hack the interface? Deleuze and Guattari give another vector, becoming. Not a fixed sense of identity, but a process. Becoming woman, becoming animal, becoming molecular, becoming imperceptible, becoming the girl online. Consequent abstraction from abstraction itself. One figure that they offer is the pro-pet, or to be more precise, the tête chercheuse. A sensing head, a homing device, a radar, a machinic snooping nose for vectors. It feels without seeing. It moves while becoming. In French, it's also a slang for a person who is deadly curious and can't stop seeking. The girl online is such a pro-pet. They drift, they scan, they aestheticize, they never settle. Their 50% opacity is their strength. They're neither fully opaque nor transparent, but flickering. And this is not just a glitch, it's a nomadic strategy. Rosi Braidotti describes the posthuman subject as constituted in and by multiplicity, an assemblage in motion, irreducible to stable identity. The girl online doesn't settle into one phase or mode. They shift, multiply, leak into the next version. Their nomadism is machinic and mimetic, not spatial. They don't flee the system. They fold it and unfold it onto themselves. The girl online is perhaps more of a portal than a person. A portal that can lead you anywhere you want to go, shape-shifting into whatever you want to be. The girl online occludes and engages in occult practices. They sense unseen patterns, they circulate glyphs, they operate on hermetic planes, powered by donning ever-novel mutations of aesthetics that deflect and diffract, never to be captured. But they could never do it by themselves, because there is no self in the girl online. In the Xenofeminist Manifesto, the collective Laboria Cubonics insist technoscientific innovation must be linked to a collective theoretical and political thinking in which women, queers, and the gender nonconforming play an unparalleled role. The girl online is not one, but many. And they do not resist the system by refusing technology. They weaponize it. They recode, reroute, rememe. Their glitch is generative. Their acceleration is tactical. Their face is a doppelganger or a copy with no original, a collective hallucination, a joint object of desire. In order to stay unmapped and unmarked, the girl online needs to continue to birth multiple versions of themselves, mutate into infinity, never stop the game. Their face is not their own, but that's the point. It was never meant to be. It is an interface of play, in a line of code, a semiotic joke. In the end, we can conclude the girl online is not a subject. They're a vector, steadily moving, never arriving. They are always updating and never rebooting. A permanent better version, a glitch with e-girl eyeliner. We do not escape faciality by logging off. We do it by playing better, by becoming propeds, glitches, even memes, by looping the same face until it breaks, by feeding the system its own image over and over again, and reversing it, twisting it, unfurling it, and inverting it. The girl online is not a creature or a being. They are a process. They are a call to action, a method for undoing the double bind of recognition. The value lies not in what it is, but in what they could still become. Thank you so much.